everybody, it's Blonde Blitz time. Let's go. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Blonde Blitz. I'm your host, Deb Whitcas. I have got a great show for you tonight. My special guest this week is a good friend of mine. She is the first female coach of the NFL. She's a huge advocate. She advocates for women in sports. In fact, she is hosting several women in football events during Super Bowl. She's going to be here to talk all about them. As the rest of the show, sports betting expert Alex White will be joining me for hot takes from Wild Card Weekend, and also to give you your best bet for the divisionals coming up this weekend. Comedian Tom Durham is also here. He's going to talk Wild Card Weekend funny. Shay Holland, HGTV designer to the athletes, is here to give us an update on the devastating LA wildfires and how the NFL handled everything. From the Injured List podcast, Brian Scott is here to talk injuries and how they may affect the divisional round this weekend. And finally, as always, Ben Troop, former tight end from the Titans and the Buccaneers, joins me for divisional round game picks. Shall we do it? All right, guys, let's get it started with headlines. The National Football League announced the sixth finalist for the 2024 Pepsi Zero Sugar NFL Rookie of the Year Award. The nominees are Brock Bowers, tight end, Raiders; Jayden Daniels, quarterback of the Commanders; Bucky Irving, running back of the Buccaneers; Malik Neighbors, wide receiver of the Giants; Bo Nix, quarterback of the Broncos; and Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver of the Jaguars. Good luck to all. The NFL will host its annual Play Football Family Festival in New Orleans on Saturday, February 8th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central, held in the heart of Super Bowl weekend. This free NFL Play Football Family Festival brings to life the excitement of the game through an interactive experience. Local youth can meet current NFL players and legends, learn skills and drills, try on equipment, and experience football in a way they never have before. The National Football League today announced that the Indianapolis Colts will play as the designated team in the first ever regular season game in Berlin as part of the 2025 International Games. The 2025 NFL Berlin game will be played at the Olympic Stadium as a part of a multi-year commitment to playing games in the sports mecca. The Colts' opponent, along with game date and kickoff time, will be announced when the full 2025 NFL schedule is revealed this spring. I already can't wait. All right, guys, those are your headlines for this week. Now it's time for hot takes. I love that music. Alex White joins us from Vegas. You are over at the South Point Casino. Alex, how are you?
I'm good, Deb. Thank you so much for having me for Hot Takes this week. I feel honored that I get to be on with you for the division round. Down to 4 games. I can't believe it.
It's insane that the season's almost over. We're heading towards Super Bowl. It's wild. The season has gone so unbelievably fast. It's crazy.
We say it every year, right? And then we can't wait. Off-season feels so long, and then we're just anxiously waiting for it to begin again.
I know, right? After Super Bowl, I get this lull, and I'm like, I miss football. Literally, like a day or two after Super Bowl, I'm like, okay, I'm tired, and then then I'm like, okay, let's get it started again. So maybe UFL, I guess, plays. I don't know if that quite. But yeah, I'll tune into that, I guess, until it all starts again in August. So, and we do have Combine and we do have the draft. So at least we have something a little something after Super Bowl. All right, are you ready to talk some wild card weekend football?
I am.
Let's start out with the Bills. They dominated the Broncos with a rushing attack. I mean, 31-7. They maintain an undefeated home record. What are your thoughts on this team?
I mean, very impressive, especially that second half. Had me a little bit worried in that first half, right? They weren't really getting anything done offensively, but I don't love the chances for this Bills teams to move too far forward because this is a tough game. It's basically a pick 'em against the Ravens. Right now, I have the Ravens as the #1 AFC team. Of course, Houston takes on the Chiefs. Chiefs are like a 8-point favorite right now. So it's looking pretty good for the winner of the Bills and the Ravens to take on the Chiefs. I don't like that matchup for the Bills because, I mean, the Chiefs have revenge. Their only loss this year is to the Bills. You don't want to put that in Patrick Mahomes' head. He'll be ready for that matchup. So while it's a great story and people were really down on them, I'm a little bit nervous with the next 2 games for Buffalo.
I agree with you. I think actually the Ravens are a more balanced team. I'm worried about this next game on Sunday. It's funny because every single year I pick the Bills to go to the Super Bowl and I pick the Bills to win. I have now for the last like 5 years, and they always let me down. I don't think they're going to make it past the Ravens, though. That's just my thoughts. Moving on to the Eagles. The Eagles defense shined against the Packers 22-10. The Eagles right now are the #1 defense in the NFL. Last year they were 30, and Vic Fangio has really kind of whipped this defense into shape. I was excited to have him. And some people were naysayers, but I was like, I believe in Nick Fangio, and he has done it. But the offense, I just wasn't. I don't know. Something was off. What are your thoughts?
I'm not too worried about the offense. So Jalen Hurts coming off of the concussion, right? Hadn't played in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So he threw for 131 passing yards. But when they have number 26, it doesn't really matter. They have multiple options to beat you, right? So whether it's Saquon Barkley or Jalen Hurts, I was shocked to see him actually run for 36 yards because of that concussion. I thought they'd be very protective of him. But I think this team, the entire roster, is going to just put everything out there on the line each and every game. I mean, you brought it up, their defense, they've been #1 for quite some time now throughout the season. So they're ready to go. And I think their offense will be just fine. I think they needed a game to get back into this one.
Well, and I hope you're right. I mean, I feel like they really shied away from the run game, which is what they're good at. AJ Brown only had 1 reception for 10 yards. He was reading a book on the sidelines, which now everyone in Philly now has this book. But yeah,
I heard
don't know.
It's #1 on Amazon, that book. So that's incredible.
Yeah, that's wild. I was like, maybe I should read this too. I think I'm a little bit more worried than you are, maybe because I'm such an Eagles fan, but I think I expected everyone to be hot out in the gate. And I mean, you understood Hurts just came back from a concussion. And yeah, I mean, just something was off. I feel like if they play like that, on this Sunday, they're not winning. I mean, they're playing the Rams. The Rams looked amazing in the last game, and beating the Vikings, which were 14-2. Granted, Sam Darnold did not look good. We were seeing Sam Darnold from the Jets and from the Panthers, but yeah, I mean, I just feel like if the offense plays like they did last week, they're not getting by the Rams. The Rams are hot right now. So
they are definitely hot. My only concern is how emotional was that game for them, right? The travel, they did that for LA. They put everything out there to beat the Vikings. I don't know if they have anything left in the tank, and we will find out. But as you mentioned, I mean, if you can beat the Packers and AJ Brown is pretty much non-existent in the offense, I feel pretty good about them going into this game.
Okay. All right, cool. And you know what I loved? Dallas Goedert stiff arming for a touchdown. I was like, yes, go Dallas. Yes, and I mean, Derrick Henry did it too. And literally, like, he like bitch slapped somebody. I was like, wow. I mean, I believe he got a touchdown on that run too. But yeah, I love the playoffs, and I love how hard these players go. Moving on to the Commanders game, they secured a last-second victory over the Bucs, 23-20, a field goal, their first playoff win in 19 years. I love this upset. I called it. Daniels and De'Ami Brown, they just had an insane night, especially Brown. Can they upset KC?
You mean Detroit? The Lions?
I'm sorry, Detroit. What I'm saying,
yeah.
Yes, Detroit. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
They're number one. I don't think so. I'm nervous because the defense has gotten better, right? But they are not good against the run. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have a day. And what do you know? David Montgomery is back in practice. That is a tough 1-2 punch if he is able to play. But I just really think Dan Campbell has this team humming. I mean, look at what they did to Minnesota when they were playing for this number 1 seed. So Commanders, fun story. I think this is going to be an interesting game. We might get into a shootout, so there is a possibility. And if they have the ball last like they did against the Bucs, of course there is a chance. But when we've seen the Commanders step up in class, and we saw it really twice this year, it was against the Ravens and it was against your Eagles, and they were outgained by quite a bit. It was like a 2-yard difference in yards per play. I think that this is stepping up in class against Detroit, but it makes me a little bit nervous. I mean, we've already been through 3 games, and I'm already talking up all the favorites. So got to start making some cases. And I mean, all these teams are here for a reason. So they probably will be pretty tough games, and they'll all be putting all on the line.
I agree. As you heard earlier in the show, Jaden Daniels was nominated for Rookie of the Year, along with 5 other very talented players. Who do you think gets Rookie of the Year?
I do think it is Jaden Daniels. Outstanding year for him. I mean, he's putting the team on his back multiple times. And even in that game, some of those 4th downs that they went for, I mean, it was just incredible. I love Brock Bowers. I mean, that is quite a story. And he had 3 different quarterbacks and to beat the tight end record as a rookie. But I think it's Jaden Daniels' award.
I agree. All right, well, let's move on to the Rams game. They overcame, as you said, adversity to defeat the Vikings 27-9. I was shocked that the Vikings just didn't show up at all. And this was obviously, like you said, despite moving to Arizona, their offense and defense was dominant. Should we not count the Rams out for Super Bowl contenders here?
I mean, it's a great question, because really I had it down to 2 teams in the NFC, and I thought the Lions and the Eagles were going to meet and play to see who would represent that conference. But the Rams are just so well coached. Sean McVay, he does more with less. I mean, they didn't have cap space, and he's turned some of these players, Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams. He's really gotten the most out of this roster. Defense has gotten so much better in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So, no, I mean, we can't count them out. We just saw them in the Super Bowl not too long ago, 4 years ago.
Right. Yeah. I was actually at that game. So it does seem like yesterday they had a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover after it, but they've come back, and they got hot at the right time during the season. I mean, Puka Nacua came back, Kupp came back. Their defense is looking stellar. I'm a little worried about this Eagles game on Sunday playing the Rams, but I think the Eagles will pull through. Also talking about Dallas, the Cowboys parted ways with head coach Mike McCarthy. There's rumors Deion Sanders might take his place. I wanted to get your thoughts on that and who might take, the head coach position.
Okay, so hear me out. The Cowboys, they've kind of done it to themselves, right? They've become a little bit of divas. CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons on the defensive side. Who better than to come in there and kind of whip them into shape and help them with their culture there right now than Deion Sanders? I think it could be a good fit. I think Jerry Jones may actually loosen the reins a little bit and listen to Deion Sanders compared to these other head coaches or, these older white guys that he necessarily doesn't always listen to. So I don't hate it at all. If there was going to be one spot for him in the NFL compared to college, I think that would be a good fit. Of course, Ben Johnson is the name, offensive coordinator for the Lions. Everybody seems to want him. I think he's had interviews with the Raiders, Dallas, and Chicago now. So I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Somebody said Jerry Jones loosen the reins. Yeah, that's a very good point.
I love it. I would love to see Deion Sanders there. I follow him on every single social media, obviously, and I love his daily affirmations. And yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I would, Dallas needs a little bit of they haven't been to playoff position in such a long time, and they talk so much. Well, their fans talk a lot of like hoopla, but yeah, they kind of need to like play and play. I mean. Obviously, I'm an Eagles fan, so I don't care about Dallas. I mean, like, I don't want to see them in the playoffs, but, I did think Mike McCarthy was not coming back. So, I called that one too. Who do you think, as far as MVP talks, I'm asking everybody between Barkley, Allen, Burrow, Jackson, who's your pick?
This conversation's always so tough, right? I really do think number one, it is Lamar Jackson. I think he should be back-to-back MVP. Yeah. I mean, just had an outstanding year. But what an MVP is, most valuable to your team, I think it is Josh Allen. And I think you gotta give it to him because, I mean, they do have Derrick Henry over in Baltimore that has really helped Lamar Jackson. And Josh Allen, I mean, come on, they trade Diggs. Everybody thinks they have no wide receivers, and what he's been able to do this year, plus his best year. I mean, he's always been critiqued for the interceptions, and he's really fixed that this year. So I think it's Josh Allen.
Yeah, and Snowman, Brian Snow was on with us too. He just said, "Oh no, it's Josh Allen," and no, it's not even close. So yeah, I mean, I would love to see Saquon Barkley, but I'm not sure if that's actually going to happen. I think it's going to be between Jackson and Allen for sure. Again, I don't love going with the Bill.
Saquon should be up for Offensive Player of the Year, though, right?
That's true. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, just because the MVP, it's just become so much of a quarterback award.
Yeah, that would be great if he got it because usually quarterbacks are the ones who get it. Well, Alex, do you have a best bet for us for divisional weekend?
I do, and I hope you don't hate it too much. I'm not going against your team, but if there is going to be a rock fight, I do think it'll be between the Rams and the Eagles. And I talked about how the Eagles' defense has gotten better. If you throw out Week 18, they've held their last 4 opponents to 9 or less points. You talked about Vic Fangio and what he has done for this Eagles defense, number 1 in yards allowed. They're second in points allowed on the season, giving up an average of 18. They are fantastic against the run. They only gave up 5 rushing touchdowns to running backs and 0 receiving touchdowns to running backs. So I think Kyren Williams is going to have a very tough time. They're going to try to establish that run game, and they're going to struggle. Of course, they do have Matthew Stafford. Will be able to move the ball a little bit. Ultimately, I do think the Eagles win this game in a very low-scoring game. So we're going under 44 in that one.
All right. Alex, thank you so much. This was so fun. We have to do this more.
Thank you for having me. Best of luck to everybody this weekend, and I hope everybody's teams move on.
Yes. And real quick, where can our audience find you?
So my X handle is at Alex White with 2 E's. You can also go to YouTube and search Sports by the Book, and my shows that I do 5 days a week will pop up.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. We will see you soon. All right, guys. We've got Alex take on the weekend now. Comedian Todd Durham gives us his.
Hi, I'm Todd Durham, former Division III college football player. I won the Presidential Physical Fitness Award in the 4th grade. All this qualifies me to talk today about the wild card weekend in the NFL. Regardless of what you see from Kevin Hart, from LeBron James, from Drewski, gambling is not good. How do I know this for certain? The Buffalo Bills faced off against the Denver Broncos. Patrick Surtain, too, held a wide receiver in the end zone. Referee missed it. What happened after that was shocking. Josh Allen, known for crying, for flopping. NFL referee goes to the sidelines after this no call and personally apologizes, expressing his condolences as if his parakeet just died. Excuse me? If the white hats are apologizing to the potential NFL MVP for a missed call, you have no shot at any gambling bet. No different than the cocktail server at the blackjack table does not work for you. They work for Encore. They work for Steve Wynn. They're there to make sure that the casino gets money. Nobody out there is telling people that it's bad except Kurt Warner. Because Kurt Warner believes in Jesus. And he doesn't want you to gamble your money. Invest it, or keep it, or donate it to the poor. Do something but gambling. The Rams went to Arizona to play their game versus Minnesota. What's the stadium? State Farm. What commercials do we have to watch every 10 seconds? Bundle is Life commercials. And we got to watch Andy Reid do Fumble Rooskies. I don't want to watch State Farm commercials anymore because I live in Los Angeles. You know what happened in Los Angeles recently? Whole damn place went up in flames. You know what happened before that in July? State Farm canceled 1,000+ policies in the Pacific Palisades. And we still got to watch a football be stitched to a soccer ball. No thanks, State Farm. Take your commercials and shove them securely into your premiums. Signing off, Todd Marcel Durham. Once again, Presidential Physical Fitness Award in 1991. Blessings.
All right. Thank you so much, Todd. You can find Todd on socials at Todd Marcel Durham. All right. My next guest is the first woman NFL coach for the Arizona Cardinals. Talking about the Cardinals. She is an author, a public speaker, a trailblazer for women in sports, and also coaches the next generation of female athletes with her Gridiron Girls football camps. Please welcome Jen Welter. Hey, Jen, welcome to the Blonde Blitz. How are you?
I've got my blonde streaks. I should have put them out more, but I'm with you in spirit here on the Blonde Blitz.
I appreciate that so much. Where are you right now?
I am in Salt Lake City. Was just speaking on the importance of athletes and philanthropy.
Oh, amazing. Who else?
Yeah.
Who all is there with you? Can you give me?
Oh my gosh, it's like a family. It was like a family office conference, but I was on with the legend himself, Sean Alexander. So
oh wow, okay.
With a little football theme going.
Yeah,
I think I would tackle him, but it's fine.
I love it. Well, talking about football in general, I always ask this as my first question. Every single guest I have on, why football?
Why not football?
I mean,
football, but football is full contact chess. That's how I look at it, right? Yep. And it's the one sport where what is different about you actually makes you special, right? It doesn't matter who that one player is. Who's your favorite player?
My favorite player? Dear Lord, you know me. I have so many. I'm gonna go.
But give me one.
McNabb.
Give me your one, huh?
McNabb. I'm Donovan McNabb.
Okay, well, if you had 11 Donovan McNabbs on the field at the same time, you're still going to get your butt whooped. Absolutely. He can be the greatest, right? We can talk about so many GOATs, and I love it when people say that. I'm like, the greatest all time at what they do.
Right.
But it's not one size fits all. I have yet to see a player that multiplied by 11 times could beat the best of the best at what they do. And that means what makes us different makes us special. And how cool is that, what works on the football field is also something that I think is pretty dope in life as well.
Very
but
cool.
Most sports aren't like that, right?
Right.
If you took soccer and you took freaking, the best of the best in soccer and you replicated 11 times, you're probably going to beat everybody.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. And you started out as a rugby player, correct?
Well, I started out just as an athlete, right?
Of
in
course.
multi-sports, tennis to soccer to softball to volleyball. But
Mhm.
in college, yes, I was a rugby player.
And how did that give me that road from rugby to football? Like I know that's a loaded question, but we don't have much time because I know you're busy.
Well, it's not. So I grew up loving football, but girls weren't allowed to play.
Right.
So I had never seen rugby until I got to college at Boston College. And when I saw it, I was like, what is this magical game that is
Right.
like football meets soccer? And I don't know why they lift each other, but they get to tackle. And I'm so doing this. And, I fell
You
in
live for
love
the
with the game.
tackle, I have to say. I've seen
Yeah,
you
yeah.
tackle. It's it's crazy. You're really good at it. Oh my goodness. Like,
It is one of my superpowers, right?
yeah,
And
it is.
and I frankly think every woman should know how to tackle. It's
Mhm.
not just a football imperative, it's a life imperative.
I agree.
But once I played rugby, played all 4 years at BC,
Mhm.
actually got recruited to try out for the under 23 national team. And I was a prop. So I was very undersized at my position. I was probably about half the size of the other people who played it.
Yeah, I mean you're what, 5'5", 5'6", and like what are you? Yeah. I know you, so I'm not gonna say a
I
weight here, but you're tiny.
apparently, Deb, like I am bigger in my mind. I'm 5'2".
Are you really? No,
I am
you're not
five
five
two.
two. I'm 5'6",
Yes.
so I knew you were a little bit
Yes.
shorter than me, but I did not realize you were
No.
5'2". Okay, you have a
Yeah.
big presence.
I have a big presence and a big personality and a
Yes.
small body. And maybe they thought I was 5'6" before they got there and then realized that she's a little shorty. So um I unfortunately did not make the US national team. I was devastated. I thought that this was what I was meant to do.
Mhm.
This was I'd always believed I was meant to be an athlete. And when I didn't make it, I was crushed.
Mhm.
So I was playing flag football on weekends, and the general manager of a team called the Masked Mutiny, which those of you who follow women's football
Yes.
today would be the Boston Renegades. The
Mhm.
general manager called my flag league and said, "Do you have any girls who are playing flag that you think could play tackle?" Full disclosure, having come from rugby, I'd never really left tackling. So they were probably very happy to get rid of me. Um, I went to an open tryout and made it. And literally the rest is history.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, and you mentioned girls flag football. You have a bunch of events coming up for Super Bowl,
Oof. Yes.
celebrating women in football, past, present, and future. Why don't you tell us a little bit about each of them? I'm excited to be there. I'm excited to be a part of it as well. So,
Well, Deb, you are one of those friends who always shows up, and we are always so happy to have you in the Blonde Blitz present.
thank you.
Um, So speaking of present, right? But this week is really a celebration of women in all phases of football. I'm going to start with the past because that's new this year.
Mhm.
And it was inspired by the passing of one of my teammates from Team USA. Um, Tracy was a baller. And you know what? 45 of the best women's football players in the world in 2010 literally tackled the world over 3 games. And right in the NFL, we complain about a Thursday game because of a short schedule.
Right.
Over the course of a week, we played 3 games.
Oh,
And
wow.
over those 3 games, yeah. And over those 3 games, we beat the world 201-0.
Wow. And how much were you
Yep.
being paid for that? I hate to ask.
Oh, we paid to have that
Yeah,
pleasure.
that's what, yeah, I figured.
That's yeah, yeah, yeah. We had to pay about $3,000 in order to represent the United States in American football. And not, it was without question we were doing it, but we were doing stuff as players that good high school teams don't even do anymore. We were doing car washes. We were, whatever we could do to make sure that our teammates all made it. And we made it and we made it work. And I still think, that team is like the equivalent of what Copa was to soccer,
Hmm.
right? This is like the lost team.
Hmm.
Football is going to be an Olympic sport in 2028, but it started with 2010.
Right.
And you know, in my mind, that group of women could throw on the pads and tackle the world today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I didn't even know Tracy was sick.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to say goodbye.
Sorry.
And it hit me so hard.
Mm-hmm.
I was mad at myself. And like, you know, you know me, like I probably trip myself up in my own mind far too often because I overthink everything and especially the right things. And it had been on my heart for a while to
Mm-hmm.
honor more women in football, but I found more excuses than I found time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And after I got over being upset with myself, I decided that I would take that energy and channel it into something good. And so, what we're doing is we're curating an installation called Kick Glass. And these are the strong shoulder pads that the game today was built on. And so we're going to story tell. I'm looking for women from the front office to the field who have moved the chains for women in football. And we want to celebrate those women. I want to create a space where, whether it was flag or tackle or broadcasting or, you know, tackling the front office, right? Like Amy Trask did,
Mm-hmm.
that girls and women can go in and say, oh my gosh, we did that. Or look at my teammates. Or did you realize that women were playing football 50 years ago? And it'll be the first place that women's football is celebrated. Like the history of women's football is celebrated. And, you know, I've had such a, and I'm thankful you've been on this project with me, but I've had such a great, exhausting time
It's a
reaching
lot
out
of
to all
sharing.
these and
Doing a
like
lot.
literally just collecting things like photos and mementos and articles so that we could really have this be a start. And that's what I keep like trying to remind myself. This
Mm-hmm.
is the beginning,
The first
not an
one, the inaugural one. Yes.
this is the first. And then what the goal is that this installation will travel to different cities so that that storytelling can be, you know, can be carried on and these women can be honored. And I want to use that as the backdrop to finance extended storytelling, right? Like I want to do a documentary on that 2010 team. Done and done, right? And so we have that. And very cool news. Mrs. Benson and the Saints actually gave us our seed donation. So the Spirit
Fabulous.
of New Orleans is right there. Mrs. Benson was a part of it from the jump, and she was our first major donor, which is really special to me. So we
For
have
the
that.
for the audience, the owner, just so the audience knows, Mrs. Benson is the owner of the Saints, right? Yes.
Right. Like, how cool is that? Like,
Mhm. That's
and, you know,
amazing.
being an owner, that's one of the things, like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, at one time that wasn't possible. And I know for me, I see that and I go, you know what? Maybe I need to set my goals a little higher, right? Like,
Hey,
I've
I mean, oh,
coached,
that's my
maybe just
alarm.
push it on. I mean, like,
Yeah, reach for the stars, and you always do. Tell me a little bit about a day in the life. It's
yeah.
women's interactive. You know, it's for women who have ever wondered what it's like to be an NFL player.
Yeah, so the past is the kick class, and that's on
Yep.
Wednesday, right? And then Friday, we have a day in the life, the ultimate female football fan fantasy experience for women of every fitness level.
Mm-hmm.
We are taking women out of the stands onto the field and bringing them into the game. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have ever wondered what it was like, you get drafted to my team and I am your head coach for the day. You'll get your gear to start. We have 47 brand as our partner, which is also super cool for me because that was my number my whole career. So you'll everybody gets to rock my number. And then for our VIPs, which everybody should want to be a VIP, we have kind of that mimosas, you know, the
Mm,
bubbly brunch, right? We've got a boozy brunch start
yep.
because I'm going to get you out of your
Doing it
comfort zone,
right. Yeah.
but I want you to be confident as you do it. So a little
Of
liquid
course.
courage, you know. And oh, by the way, the other thing with VIP, like if you think I don't do it right, like let me check that. We have About Face, which is a local glam squad makeup company. Lindsay is fantastic.
Yes.
She did my makeup while I was just in New Orleans. And then we have Dry Bar. So Dry Bar will be doing
Ooh,
dry styles. Yeah, so we'll
okay.
have hair and makeup ready, right?
Love it.
which makes
Love
it
all of
truly
that.
VIP, right? Like, love all of it because I'm a girl's girl. Like,
Yeah.
again, I'm gonna make you uncomfortable, but we're gonna look good.
Look at me too while we do it.
I want all the photos, right? I want all the smoke.
Yeah.
So once we do all those things, then we'll hit the field
Mhm.
and we'll start with playbook with me. I'm gonna give ladies the basics of the game I call full contact chess, so that they learn how to read a playbook, right? Like,
Mhm.
and take some of those things into their game. And then, so from that, we'll go through a dynamic warm up. Then we have station rotations. Those stations will teach you everything from how to throw properly, how to catch, how to pass block, run block, how to tackle. Again, I said every woman should know how
I
to tackle.
tackled last
I'm just
year.
saying.
It was amazing.
Yes.
I've
It
never
was
done
the
it
best
before. I
feeling.
was like, boom, there's footage of
Yeah.
it.
It is. It's
great.
such a good feeling.
It was such
And
a
then
high.
once we have all of the, once we have all of the fundamentals, then we'll do offense on air and defense on air.
Mhm.
Cheat code. All that means is offense with no opposition. So you're just running on air. So we get to see how those plays come together because they're really like a choreographed dance.
They are.
And
And that's why I
you
love
know,
football.
right. But
Dancing.
most people, it looks like kind of a little bit chaotic if you never had a chance to like read the playbook and see
Mhm.
just how smart you have to be a great football player. So we'll do offense on air and defense on air. And then I lovingly say we finish with cocktails and Q&A, but we'll have like, food, bev, great combo to round out a day in the life.
Amazing. And where can the audience find information about this?
We have most of it probably on like LinkedIn or social. We'll also attach it to my website. Tickets are available now for purchase for a day in the life. And the cool thing about that is a day in the life is a fundraiser. So if it wasn't cool enough that the women get this great fan fantasy experience, you're doing it for the good of the next generation of girls. And so the future, which is the third element of the week, that's our Gridiron Girls Camp. And we have that at Longview Gardens. We will take 200 girls in partnership with the 18th Ward, and I get to teach them football. So, this is the donations from a day in the life, which, that experience that the women go through really help us create experiences for girls just like this one.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you, Jen, so much for stopping by. I know you're super, super busy. Thanks for stepping in. Guys, if you want any information about Jen's Women in Football events, please go to www.jenwelter.com to learn more. Have fun in Utah. And
yeah, for sure. And you can also find more updates like on social at Welter47 or on LinkedIn as well. But we are available for pre-sale now. We've kind of done like super secret insiders, so we'll make sure to hook you up with that information as well, Deb.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
You got it.
All right, guys, Shay Holland, HDTV designer to the athletes, is here to give us an update on the LA wildfires and how the NFL handled all of it.
For the past week, our Los Angeles region has been ravaged by catastrophic wildfires.
It's one of those deals that almost doesn't feel real, but it certainly is real to the people that are affected.
Our friends and our neighbors have lost homes, and entire communities have been devastated. The courage and bravery of our firefighters and our first responders prove that real-life heroes live among us. We will not be defined by this devastation.
Hey, I'm trying not to cry.
I know. I'm like, I should not have watched that video again.
Well, and I have to say, it was a great video. Thank you. I have to say, when I saw the bald eagle flying in the link, I lost it. Like, done.
Yeah.
But sorry, I'm tearing up again. How are you? Last time we talked with you, fires were creeping into the Santa Monica. You were almost ready to evacuate. You were kind of on the front line. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. It seems like things have calmed down. Every time I hear tonight, we've under still a warning and the high winds were supposed to come back. So when the wind hits the window, it's this, you sit up straight still and wonder, is something going on out there? So, we're still on edge in LA, but just the outpouring of support and love from around the world, from the NFL, from players. It's just been amazing to also see the best of humanity come together too.
Absolutely. And, you're talking about everyone coming together to support each other. The NFL has been amazing with the support that they've given. I understand you have some information about that.
Yeah, the NFL has really, I think probably because so many of the players were affected by this, we're starting to get some names of players that lost homes of their family, or that, their childhood homes were affected. I'll just run through a couple names here, like Atlanta Falcons running back Avery Williams, his dad's home, his childhood home was lost. Former Buffalo player Chad Brown lost his parents' home. Former St. Louis Rams Justin Watson lost his own home. Also, it extended, beyond NFL, NBA as well, MLB. In fact, even the Warriors coach, Steve Kerr, his mom's home was lost. She's 90 years old. They'd had the home since the 1960s. His assistant coach lost his home. Lakers coach JJ Redick lost his home. I mean, it's just insane. One of the saddest. We do now know also that a football coach out of, it's a school called Oaks Christian, just north of here, was also killed in the fires. And so we have a lot of the football community. His sister was. He lost both his homes, and then his sister is the one who was also lost in the fires. So I know that Babette Perry, who has helped us, her husband is a former player. They're rallying around as well to help support just, within the community, but also outside of the community. And the NFL has pledged, starting with $5 million, but that's gone way up. Individuals are contributing as well to all of the fire victims. What was really cool about that video too, so just before, I don't know if it was, I think it was just after the eagle flew, or maybe before, I can't remember, was the moment of silence. And that you should go back and watch that whole video, because I'm sure you did already, but it was so moving. And then the Rams, of course, had on they all wore jerseys that said LAFD for LA Fire Department. And what was really cool about that game was, so that's the first time, that's like unprecedented to move the game. We all know they had to move it to Arizona because the fire came just a few miles from their training facility here in California. And several of the players were having to evacuate. The coach was having to evacuate, and Arizona said, we'll send a plane. You evacuate the players and their families, and we'll help you guys get them out. They can save those hotel rooms for other families that are evacuating. It just became the whole watching just all this teamwork outside of the field. That's what was so encouraging about this time.
Absolutely. And this is the first time the NFL had to move a game. I believe the date was 1936.
That's what my research is showing too, was the last time. And that was just like low ticket sales. It wasn't, they thought they could get more in a major city when they moved it. I can't remember the two teams that were playing, but yeah, it was some time ago. And so I think this just showed that, and granted, yes, the NFL didn't want to have to cancel a game. We're talking, that's big money. I'm not going to lie to
game, yeah.
at the end of the day. But yeah. the fact of the matter is that so many people are impacted, and they are turning around and trying to give back. And a lot of these players, those family homes, those were not in wealthy areas. Those were all in the Altadena area, which is a historically Black community. And so, people always are saying, well, it's the millionaires, they can just rebuild, and, missing so much of the story. And it just, like I have friends that lived in a mobile home that lost their home and everything. And so it kind of infuriates me when people say it's just sports. And that tells me that they're not from tiny little towns in the Midwest like I am, where sports is your community, sports is your team. And that's what we're seeing come together right now. And so to me, it's a beautiful time to see what is happening among just the unselfishness and the willingness to give of resources, and the NFL really stepping up and wanting to make sure that not just the players are taken care of, but also members of the community are taken care of.
Absolutely. And I know Kelly Stafford actually, she organized a free charter buses for season ticket holders for the Rams to get the fans out there. Like you said, all the players, the coaches wore the LAFD shirts. I also heard that about 200 gallons of paint was shipped to Arizona and donated, so the Rams would have their Rams logo on the field. The Rams brought over their cheerleaders. They really wanted to make it a home game, and I think they accomplished that. I couldn't tell they were in Arizona. I don't know if you
it was I couldn't believe when you looked at the end zone that it was painted in the Chargers colors with the the Rams. It was amazing to me. And then I think let's see, it was 45,000 fans from LA made the trek out there. Buster, I know that they had buses leaving from SoFi, and so it just shows you that people need to come together. We need each other. We need the community in times like this, and we don't need to be sitting there isolated and everybody watching the news and getting anxious and fearful. And so so this was an amazing display of support. This fire has been now considered, I think we mentioned this last week, the worst in California, in Los Angeles history. I think 25 are now confirmed dead at this point. We've got 12,000 structures, I believe, damaged in homes. And so just to put this in perspective for people, because this is a football audience, it burned so far 40,000 acres approximately. And the size of that, people are saying, well, what's the size of that? And I tell my friends from San Francisco, it's bigger than the entire city of San Francisco, for example. Yeah. It is.
And Manhattan.
And Manhattan. It's the equivalent of 30,000 football fields. And that might, for our audience, be able to put it in better perspective then, because we know what the size of one football field looks like. You multiply that by 30,000, and that was how much burned so quickly. It burned 3 football fields a minute. That was a fast-moving fire, and that's why there's so much damage. So I know that the NFL is going to continue to be there, continue to support these players who are evacuated. The ones, they're still in evacuation zones. A lot of our California players are. And so it's going to have some long-term consequences, but I have full confidence that the NFL is going to be an amazing partner for the long term as well.
Awesome. Shay, thank you so much for giving us that update. We're praying for you. We're praying for LA, and we hope everyone stays safe.
Thank you. It was really special when we saw Andy Reid pray for the state of California as well. Hopefully they're not going to, well, maybe the Chiefs fans are like, we're still going to win, but we'll still pray for you. Yeah. And Patrick Mahomes had his baby in the midst of all this. So lots of news from that end too. But it's been great to have the support even from the Chiefs.
Awesome, Shay. We'll see you next week.
Thanks so much, Deb.
Great. All right, guys, let's turn to divisional weekend. Brian Scott from the Injured List podcast is here to talk injuries.
The doctor is in now.
What's up, Deb? It's Brian Scott from the Injured List podcast. Thanks for having me on. The big story heading into the divisional round this year is not who's injured, but who's not injured. And essentially, it's the entire Kansas City Chiefs roster. They basically have almost the entire roster back from the preseason. That's right. Mecole Hardman is scheduled to make a comeback. Isaiah Pacheco has made a comeback. Chris Jones has made a comeback. Mahomes, with his high ankle sprain, has had 23 days to recover, along with the rest of the starters from when they last played over the last few weeks, given their first-round bye after locking up the AFC there. So they are in prime time position heading into the playoffs. The Eagles, the Ravens, and the Bills are all looking very good when it comes to injuries as we head into the divisional round. The Lions will get David Montgomery back. They've had a few losses to some key players, including Aiden Hutchinson. But it looks like they're going to get back not only Montgomery, but Terry and Arnold and Kevin Zeitler. So they're looking better heading into the divisional round playoffs here. The Texans are without one of their receivers who was limited in practice, but otherwise they should be good to go. And guys, this is typical at this time of year. The teams that are the healthiest are the teams that are going to have the best chance to dance in the big dance that is the Super Bowl. So all things are out the window now as far as timelines and injuries. Most guys will play through minor injuries, whereas maybe earlier in the season they wouldn't. So I wouldn't really let this factor in. It's really going to be a matter of which team has less guys that they've lost throughout the season to IR, season-ending injuries. And the team that's had the most time to rest should be the team that's primed and ready to go. As always, thanks for having me on, Deb. Brian Scott of the Injured List Podcast.
The doctor is in now.
Thanks so much, Brian, for that update. Hopefully no more injuries this weekend. All right, guys, the divisional round is here. It has arrived. Please help me welcome Ben Troop, former tight end for the Titans and the Bucs, for game picks. Ben, where you at? Hi, how are you?
What's going on, Deb? How you doing?
I'm doing well. What did you think of Wild Card Weekend?
Oh, man. Number one, I think the thing about the National Football League, everybody be talking about defenses and coordinators. If you got you a quarterback, a mobile one, you got a really, really good shot to win. And obviously, if you got a Saquon Barkley, in the tool shed, that's going to help as well. But it didn't disappoint. I mean, teams, obviously you're going to have teams like the Ravens. You got teams like the Bills. You got guys, you got certain guys that show you why they are who they are. But this is where the best players in the world play. And I was very impressed with all the winners. When people saying, oh, well, Denver didn't show up. Well, Denver had to play a Buffalo Bills team that's playing for something different. I mean, Josh Allen, I know everybody thinks he wants the regular season MVP. Listen to me, people. They want the Super Bowl MVP. Well, no. Buffalo wants the Super Bowl, period. They don't care. You could give the MVP, to the ball guy. They don't care. When you talk about the legacy that is known of the Buffalo Bills, and I think the shocker of the weekend was Houston. I mean, say what you want.
Yep.
No one saw Houston being able to do what they did, and we owe DeMeco Ryans, we owe C.J. Stroud a huge apology because they didn't have the season they had a year ago. He didn't have the stats he had a year ago. Mm-hmm. But 2 years, two-time AFC South champs, moving on in the playoffs. And dare I say, yep. I get they got to go to Kansas City, but hey man, they playing with house money. These guys too young to understand the severity of the situation. We will see if they can. We can see if a dome team can deal with these frigid conditions.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely owe CJ Stroud an apology. I didn't think they could do it. They did it. And we're seeing the number 4 Texans against the number 1 Chiefs this Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Who do you got and why?
Well, I mean, I just heard the doc talking about everybody's on the injury list for Kansas City, but then Patrick Mahomes, boy, get 23 days to rest. Congratulations to him and his wife. I don't know how many babies that is, but congratulations on
a baby girl.
Okay, and Kansas City, I mean, nothing against – listen, I think Houston is one of the best stories in football. I still love C.J. Stroud, still love DeMeco Ryans. I mean, Nico Collins, what can't you say about him? But Kansas City is saying, we love you, CJ. You ain't Lamar Jackson. You ain't Joe Burrow. You ain't Josh Allen. And to me, while he has a good team, I just think the conditions, the situation, and Kansas City has got something that most people won't, and that's called rest. They got rest. Yeah. They rested up. And here's the thing, Deb. This Kansas City team, led by Patrick Mahomes ain't on the MVP watch list. He don't care. I don't even know if Patrick Mahomes is a Pro Bowler this year.
He's not a Pro Bowl. He got snubbed for Pro Bowl.
I think the thing about Kansas City, they're saying, look, man, we've done it all regular season wise. We got arguably we got the best quarterback in football. That's taking nothing away from Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. We got the best tight end currently in football. That's taking nothing away from Brock Bowers, who's a first-team All-Pro. Kansas City is saying, dude, let's just win. We don't care about style points. We don't care about how it looks. Last-second field goal, last-second drive, a block field goal. And that's what I think makes Kansas City dangerous is they told everybody in the AFC, I don't care if your last name is Allen, Jackson, or Stroud, if you want to win it all, you got to come to Kansas City to do it. And I think that's what makes them dangerous for the rest of this tournament.
I agree. And, this is a rematch of week 16. The Chiefs won 27-19. But like we just said earlier, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. I mean, the Texans have reached this point. The Texans defense showed up huge against the Chargers. But I mean, like you said, the Chiefs haven't played, they're rested. They've had 2 full weeks of rest. Brian just said it. Chiefs team is only getting healthier. Marquise Brown, Pacheco's coming back. Watson's coming back. And there's a stark contrast because Houston's has lost Diggs to a torn ACL earlier this season. Wideout Tank Dell is out. He dislocated his kneecap. Ooh. The Chargers are just a better team. Let's be honest. They're a healthier team. They have way more playoff experience. The Chiefs are favored by 8 here. I'm going with the Chiefs. I mean, I think everybody is, right?
Oh yeah. A non-betting man or woman to say, I'm gonna go with go with the. There is no such thing as a sure thing, but the closest thing to a sure thing will be the Kansas City Chiefs.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the number 7 Commanders versus the number 1 Lions, 8 p.m. on Saturday. What are your thoughts?
It is going to be exciting. And for everybody thinking that Jaden Daniels, look, we get he's a rookie, but he's never played like one, never looked like one. Zach Ertz, who has the most experience out of everybody coming into this game, already won the Super Bowl and what he meant to the Philadelphia Eagles when they did win it. This Detroit team showed the last game of the season we ain't looking past nobody. We take everybody serious. Dan Campbell, they had a Dan Campbell lookalike contest in Detroit. So Jared Goff is a player that we don't show enough appreciation for because of what he's meant to Detroit. Jaden Daniels is the X factor, but I think Detroit just got the better team top to bottom. I mean, the fact that the Detroit Lions got the number 1 seed and home field advantage throughout that doesn't happen. But that's today's NFL. That's not the NFL Deb you and I grew up watching. So I think it's going to be exciting because I think Jaden Daniels plays his best when the situation is at its worst. You give him dire situations and this he shows up. The problem is he's had to do it for so many games this year. Is there someone else that can take the load off? Because I think Detroit can beat you in a lot of ways. They can stifle you with their defense. They can stifle you with their run game. They can stifle you with the passing game. They play well in special teams, and they're getting healthy. They're getting guys back. And mind you, they're doing this without their best defensive player. Aiden Hutchinson hasn't played in a long time, and it hasn't changed. I think it's going to be a great game. I'm happy.
I was shocked. There was no change. I was like, when Aiden was out, I was like, they're done. And nope, not even close.
Oh yeah, I'm going with Detroit, and that's no disrespect to Washington. That's no disrespect to Dan Quinn. That's no disrespect to Bobby Wagner and what he's meant, coming over the first year, coming over from the Rams. I just think Detroit is on a crash course with the Philadelphia Eagles. And
I agree with you.
Just like Kansas City, Detroit said, if you want to win it, you got to come to Detroit to do it. They're a different team at home. Give me them Detroit Lions.
All right. I agree with you, but I'm so impressed with what the Commanders have done this season. I mean, that battle with the Bucs was great. Everybody was saying Bucs. I went with the upset. The Commanders won their first playoff game since 2005. Wow. Watching last week's game, Daniels literally gave me chills. I mean, his accuracy, he just hit like his timing. I mean, and like you said, he's a rookie, and he does not look like a rookie on that field. I feel like he's at ease. I mean, this guy's going to have a stellar career. It's just a shame that this will be his last game of the rookie season. I feel like the Lions, the physicality of the Lions up front will overwhelm him in Washington. Detroit is number 6 in the rush attack, and Montgomery is coming back this week. That's going to shake things up. I feel like Daniels will give the defense some work, but it's just not going to be enough. I mean, let's be honest. The Lions are probably the most balanced team aside from the Ravens and the Eagles, but Lions are favored by 9.5. I'm going Lions too. Let's move on to number 4, Rams versus the number 2 Eagles, 3 p.m. on Sunday. I will be at this game with bells on. What are you thinking?
I will say this. The Eagles to me are the better team, top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But the Rams are dangerous for this reason. Matthew Stafford, he just finds a way, because we talk about what the dismantling of Minnesota, even though they said Minnesota had, I want to say the Rams had the same number of sacks as Minnesota had points. 9 sacks, 9 points. Here's the thing about the Eagles, though. We trust Saquon Barkley. We even trust the Philadelphia Eagles defense. That passing game for the Eagles, it's going to have to show up, at 3 p.m. on Sunday for this reason. Mm-hmm. I know that A.J. Brown had 1 catch. I know that he's reading books on the sideline. And A.J., if you're looking for a good book to read, go Uncommon Unfinished, The Ben Troop Story. It's a great book. If you're looking for something to read,
where can we find that? Amazon?
Anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Books a Million, Barnes and Nobles. But if you're looking for something to read, But I'm just saying, I do think the Eagles get the win. I don't think it's going to be an easy one, and this is why. You got guys in the passing game that can challenge that defensive back. I love what Chauncey Gardner, Jonathan Jordan, Darius Slade had a big pick. But you talk about Puka Nacua, you talk about DeMarcus Robinson, you talk about, Cooper Kupp, you talk about the tight ends, and you talk about a guy, Matthew Stafford, who's going to spread the ball around. Like I said, I'm going with the Eagles. But if everybody needed a wake-up call as to – now, did I see the Rams doing that to Minnesota? No. Am I surprised? No. Because, once again, this is about experience, right? Philadelphia's been to the Super Bowl. They didn't win it. Matthew Stafford went to the Super Bowl. He did. So I just think that when you've been there before and you understand what it takes, they don't mind playing on the road, hostile environments. I think Matthew Stafford is coming to go make a game of it, but I just think it's just too much. I think the Eagles are on a crash course with these Detroit Lions. Saquon, you're going to unleash Saquon Barkley, Jalen Carter. I feel bad for Nakobe Dean going down to the linebacker position. Him and did a really, really good job this year. But I just think, Coach Sirianni is going to have those guys. Sirianni versus, Sean McVay, that's going to be a classic matchup. It might end up being the game of the weekend, but I'm going to still go with them boys.
Thank you. I am going Eagles as well. There's no way I could not go Eagles. But let's face it, the Rams look good. I mean, like you said, their defense produced 9 sacks versus the Vikings. Puka and Kupp were on fire. And the Rams scare me because LA is just it's a tragedy out there right now. I'll be back next week. But they just turned that whole situation. They practice in Woodland Hills. The guys were seeing smoke. It's rough. They flew out their families, their pets, everything. Some have lost houses. Some players in the NFL. It just they turned that negative situation into a positive, and I feel like they won that game because they were better than the Vikings, and also just from passion and just from love and what they were feeling, and then wanting to do it for LA. And I understand, how they're feeling because I live in LA as well, and it's just been a horrific situation. Really quick though, I'm not sure. I don't know where they're practicing. Someone suggested, the Rams should fly out to the East Coast early and and get used to the cold and not be in the smoke. And I'm like, I don't know about that.
The NFL. I heard you, and Shayon just talking about, the NFL and what they're doing during this tragic time in LA. You can't say enough about the league, and I wish it wasn't affecting anybody, but when celebrities are affected, that brings more attention to it. That brings with these causes and the money. And it's something about tragedy that brings us all together. I mean, everything that we bicker about, everything we complain about, all that stuff goes out the window because it's the biggest fight. And I heard you guys talking about 30,000 football feet. Good Lord. Like so our prayers and hearts goes out to you guys out there in LA. I know you said you're going out there soon there. Be careful. Because like I said, just watching it unfold, it looks like a movie, but this is really happening. So and I don't know what the solution is exactly. Shout out to them California teams. What the solution to me is, we can't treat these things like, okay, we just get over it. We got to come up with more effective it's too many people in this world for us not to have remedies for these things. I do not know what that is, but I know that somebody does, and we need to focus on the solution as well as who's affected. Because like I said, Deb, just watching it, when you first saw it, you thinking, what is that? And somebody goes, that's LA. That's Los. Somebody showed a flight and they showed the burning. And when it got to it, it didn't even seem real. So we're going to be definitely doing our part on this side of the country to try to make sure we giving you guys as much support, resources, money, whatever we can on this side. Because like I said, some people will never ever go back to what they had. But like my grandma said a long time ago, for those that were lost, man, our hearts and prayers and condolences. But you can replace things, you cannot replace people. Let us do our best to try to help those in need.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben. We appreciate that too. And just so you guys know, I did actually post on at the Blonde Blitz IG place where you can donate. So if you guys want to go there and, donate what you can, that would be amazing for all of LA. But back to this Eagles game. I feel like the defense won against Green Bay. And
absolutely.
It almost had nothing to do with the offense. I think the offense needs to step it up. Yeah, I get it. Alex and I talked earlier. Hurts has been hurt. He's been out. He just seemed a little rusty. I hope they come back. You had mentioned AJ Brown. I think he got one reception for 10 yards. Also reading that book. I'm going to chalk it up to Hurts being out, and we're going to win this game. I feel like the Eagles are the better team than the Rams. But yeah, we'll see. I'm going Eagles. Finally, let's go with the number 3 Ravens versus the number 2 Bills, 6:30 p.m. on Sunday. What do you think?
There are times in our lifetime when you start thinking about, there are moments you say, dude, you had that. Where was I? I'm not. Listen, you're not a football fan if you're missing this. If you miss this,
it's the heavyweight battle. I mean, both
it is.
Playing. This is the game of the week.
Oh my God! Yeah, this first team All-Pro Lamar Jackson versus second team All-Pro, Josh Allen. It's the two who love you, Saquon, but the MVP is going to come down to these two quarterbacks in this game. Love you what you did this year, Saquon. Here's the thing about this. I think both teams displayed who they are and what they are, against Denver and against Pittsburgh. For my money, the Ravens have this X factor known as Derrick Henry. This dude, it's like
we've talked several times about him.
Listen, I love what the Bills are doing. I love the fact that James Cook is out there doing what he does, and you got a guy like Josh Allen who can literally take over a game. And listen, for people who don't understand about this mobile quarterback thing, I know that Lamar Jackson has the most rushing yards in NFL history, broke Michael Vick record. Josh Allen has 65 rushing touchdowns right now. 65, right? Anyway, I love what the Bills are doing, but for my money, I just think that the Ravens and Lamar Jackson and what he's doing, it's beautiful to watch this man play football. Not that it's not beautiful to watch Josh Allen. I just think that the Ravens, it's going to be a shootout. I see this game coming down to the fourth quarter, whoever got the ball last. But I just think Lamar Jackson is playing at a different level. And I love Josh Allen and what he means, not just to the Bills. It's so much pressure on Josh Allen and him and for that organization to finally get over the hump. Because just say he win, then he got to go to Kansas City. Just say he win it, then he got to go to play Philly or Detroit. It's like Josh Allen go, oh my God. But I think it's going to be Lamar Jackson and company. I think they're playing a lot better on defense. I think they're playing lights out. I think they can beat you a lot of ways on offense with running the football, throwing the football. I hate picking against the Bills, especially on the road. It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be nasty. But I think the Ravens And Coach Harbaugh, I think once again, they saying, look, man, we got this thing. We got the giant known as the Bills, and then you got Goliath known as Kansas City. But I'm going to go with the Ravens. Give me, 27-24 Ravens. But I think it's going to be an instant classic.
I agree with you. And I'm going Ravens as well. Last week I went Bills. So I'm just, I honestly keep going back and forth every minute. It's kind of different. The Bills are undefeated at home and they are playing at the Highmark. So that is something. The Bills were demolished by the Ravens in week 4 in Baltimore, 35-10. Allen was held to 180 passing yards then. And that's when the defense of the Ravens were still figuring stuff out. They now have it figured out. Their defense is one of the best in the league. Obviously, a Jackson-led offense is dominant. I mean, did you see the stiff arm that Derrick Henry had? I talked about it with Alex. It was like
every time he stiff arms somebody, I say the same. I say, listen, that man got a family. Don't do him. It's almost like Derrick Henry. We always talk about these specimens, you got the Cam Newton, you got the Michael Vick, you got the Lamar Jackson, you got the Josh Allen. They don't make people like Derrick Henry. He's 31 years. He was 30 at the time. No, that was on his birthday. That was on his 31st birthday. And man, what's doing the playoff game? Almost 200 yards rushing, just something like it. And they say he goes home and he eats the same thing every day. He eats like rice with no butter on it or no gravy and like chicken that ain't even seasoned. I love you, Derrick Henry. I can't do that. I love you, but oh my God.
I heard Cam Newton was very strict with his diet too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I definitely have Ravens up, Ravens in front of the Bills here. I know you do too. And like I said, I always pick the Bills every year to go to Super Bowl, and they've let me down, so I refuse to do it again. So I'm going Ravens. All right, Ben, thank you so much for coming on again. You'll be back next week on the Blonde Blitz, and then also No Weddings in the Fall. Your show will also be back next week. Do not forget the show is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Go to Underdog Fantasy and use promo code BLONDE, and we'll double your deposit up to $100. And of course, if you like today's show, hit subscribe and follow us on all socials at the Blonde Blitz. I will see you guys next week. Please pray for LA and go Birds.